In this video, we are going to talk about Steven's universe from beginning to end. So let's get started. Backstory. Steven Universe's world started when a gem called the White Diamond appeared and took over the task of building a system called the Homeworld Society. It was basically a caste system with diamonds on top, pearls in the second rank, and servants and rubies on the third rank as bodyguards. This system also prevented the fusion of two or more lower-class gems, which would have resulted in the creation of a different gem. Typically, this fusion would be seen as higher or not fitting within the established gem hierarchy. If you are a little confused, the universe is full of gems that took physical forms, and the White Diamond is assumed to be the first gem to ever exist. Alongside her sisters, Pink, Yellow, and Blue, White created the Diamond Authority, which, as the name suggests, is an authority of diamonds. White's ultimate goal is to take over the entire universe and implement the Homeworld Society system everywhere. The Authority starts colonizing planets until eventually they form formidable governments over two entire solar systems. Among all the colonization, Pink had little to no part to play until one day she wished for her own colony. However, much to her dismay, she was denied by Blue and Yellow and sort of developed a rebellious nature against her sisters. After enough pleading, she managed to convince her sisters, and they gave her this small planet called the Earth. There's one thing I have not mentioned. Pink had a gem companion named Spinel, who was basically her play buddy. But since Pink now had a whole planet to colonize, she dealt with Spinel how any mature person would. She asked her to play a game where she has to stand still until she comes back. Spinel took the game so seriously that she stood there for 6,000 years waiting for Pink to return. She will make an epic return, don't worry. On the other hand, a mine called Prime Kindergarten is built on Earth to extract more gems, and Pink finally gets what she has wanted for so long. Still, she feels bored sitting in her chair and wants to be a part of the colony herself. However, if she visits in her diamond form, she will definitely get scolded by her sisters, so her servant Pearl suggests her to shapeshift into a rose quartz, a character that will be of utmost importance to this series. After visiting Earth, Pink, disguised as Rose, realizes that life on Earth is way too beautiful to be colonized like this, and asks her sisters to stop this tyranny. However, as expected, they refused to entertain her and instead created a human zoo to preserve life. Seeing that her sisters won't back down from the colonization, Pink, now called Rose, forms an army of rebels known as Crystal Gems. Seeing this rebellion form, Blue gathers Sapphire, capable of seeing the future, and 3 rubies as her escorts to send to Earth to stop their schemes. But in a quick turn of events, Rose invades the homeworld and attacks Blue Diamond. Against the chaos, the Sapphire accidentally fuses with one of the ruby guards and forms this mixed match called Garnet. The fusion of different gem races was considered taboo in the homeworld, so the two were cast to Earth. On Earth, the two fall in love, and after a while, they even decide to fuse on purpose. Rose is amused by the concept of love and instates Garnet into her Crystal Gem Rebellion. With their numbers growing large, a 1,000-year war breaks out, but surprisingly, the Crystal Gems manage to hold off the homeworld forces, mostly due to the constant weapon supply from Bismuth. During the war, Lapis Lazuli visits the Earth and Bismuth uses one of her weapons to poof Lapis. Poofing is basically a temporary time in which the gem loses their physical form. Thinking that Lapis is one with the Crystal Gems, she is trapped inside a mirror before she could regenerate, and Bismuth, who has now created a weapon to kill gems, gets poofed and trapped into a bubble by Rose herself. Since the Crystal Gems are winning the war, Homeworld makes a desperate attempt to create more quartz soldiers using these digging machines. That plan doesn't go anywhere, but it gives birth to an important character called Jasper, who is a total badass and practically unbeatable in battle. The war has been going on for centuries, and Rose is tired of it, so she makes one last attempt to make her sisters realize their mistake. She transforms into Pink and stages her own shattering, basically death, at the hands of Rose, leaving her sisters devastated. Eventually, the Earth is left alone, but before completely freeing it from colonization, the sisters leave the cluster at the core of Earth. All you need to know is that it's slowly eating the Earth from the inside and will eventually destroy the whole planet. More on that later. Also, the sisters launch this huge beam towards the Earth to eradicate all gems from the planet to tie loose ends and also rid humans of colonization. But the beam backfires and turns all the gems into mindless monsters. The only gems who survive this beam are Rose, Pearl, Garnet, Lapis in the mirror, and Bismuth in the bubble. Rose, Garnet, and Pearl clean up the monstrous gems left on Earth. Amethyst, another important character, is born. She is recruited into the remainder of Crystal Gems, and together they establish a temple on an island somewhere in the ocean. Thousands of years later, a guy named Greg, who was a failed pop star, has only one person showing up to his concerts. And to everyone's surprise, that person was Rose. The two fell in love and settled on an island near the temple called the Beach City. Greg gave up on his dream of being a pop star and now owns a car wash in the Beach City. Around the year 2000, they have a child, whom they name Steven. But the saddest part about his birth is that Rose has to give up her physical form to give birth to her only son. As a result, she is reduced to a gem on Steven's belly button. After she's gone, Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl decide to raise the boy alongside Greg, and they even add a beach house to the temple as a place for him to live. And after all that backstory, we finally arrive at episode 1 of this show. When Steven is 13, he discovers that he has powers similar to his mother and moves into the beach house to follow his mother's legacy. Season 1. Alright, so after thousands of years of harmony, a surveillance device is sent by the homeworld to see how Earth is doing, and Steven destroys it using his mother's powers and his father's mechanical skills. The device's destruction informs the homeworld of the existence of crystal gems that survived the beam after the war. Rose had healing powers that she used to revive her pet lion, which also has a pocket dimension inside its chest that Rose used to store precious items, including Bismuth's bubble. Steven finds this lion on a mission and instates him in the crystal gems. Soon after, Steven discovers the pocket dimension inside the lion, his mother's pink sword, and other stuff related to her past. On a side note, we also meet Connie, who becomes Steven's human friend, but more on that later. During this time, Steven releases Lapis from her mirror, and after some pep talk, he convinces her to not ruin the entire ecosystem of Earth by stealing the ocean. Steven makes an army of watermelons, fuses with Connie to become Stevani, and meets a homeworld scout, Peridot. Peridot later invades Earth with Jasper and Lapis and abducts the crystal gems. However, after Steven learns that Garnet is a fusion of Sapphire and Ruby, they beat Jasper and destroy her ship. Peridot escapes, but Jasper fuses with Lapis to become Malachite. But it was all Lapis's plan to restrain Jasper under the ocean. And for the time being, Earth is safe from homeworld invasions. Season 2. So after the warship is destroyed, the crystal gems start looking for Peridot, who escaped during her mission. Eventually, they find her and Steven manages to befriend her. As the people rebuild the beach city, she informs them about the presence of the cluster and that they need to stop it before it consumes the entire planet. Steven and the rest make this weird digging device to dig to the center of the Earth and deal with this problem. Eventually, Peridot manages to contact the homeworld, but instead of giving intel on the crystal gems, she betrays the homeworld and officially joins their team from here on out. On a side note, Steven is now 14 years old. Season 3. So the team splits in two. Peridot and Steven go to the center of the Earth to confront the cluster, while the rest arrive at the Watermelon Island after learning about the presence of Malachite. What is the Watermelon Island, you may ask? Well, the watermelons Steven created in the first season of the show have started a civilization on an island. The team beats Malachite and frees Lapis while Jasper manages to escape. On the other hand, Steven and Peridot convince the cluster to stop spreading and contain it inside a bubble. It's still there, just contained inside a bubble now. Steven also stumbles into Bismuth's bubble. He releases her, but quickly learns why she was sealed in the first place. Around this time, Steven also learns that his mother, Rose, was responsible for the shattering of Pink Diamond. After some time, Jasper returns with an army of corrupted, monstrous gems to invade the beach city. But Steven fuses with Amethyst and kicks her ass in probably the most hyped fight of the entire show. They poof her and seal her inside a bubble. Season 4. Steven is having all sorts of nightmares that are causing him pain and suffering. So to find out the source of his tears, he and Greg visit Korea where Pink Diamond was shattered. There they find the Blue Diamond, still mourning her sister's death thousands of years after it happened. When they approach her, she abducts Greg and puts her in the human zoo that she created thousands of years ago. The crystal gems now have to invade the zoo to rescue Greg. However, they find a whole different civilization of humans living there, who are the descendants of the humans that were captured around 4,000 years ago. After a very close encounter with Blue and Yellow Diamond, they manage to get away, but their troubles are not going to end here. It seems that a gem named Aquamarine has been abducting people from the beach city and sending them off to the zoo. These people happen to be Steven's friends, so he intervenes and shows her his pink gem. She assumes Steven is rose quartz and kidnaps him too, to make him pay for shattering the pink diamond. Steven, alongside his friend Lars, who had no importance to the plot until now, is being taken into the homeworld where he will have to explain his actions. Season 5. Steven is put on trial for shattering Pink Diamond, but like any other trial, he is offered an attorney who states that there are many holes in the story. Enraged by this new discovery, the Yellow Diamond poofs the attorney, and chaos breaks out as Lars and Steven both escape the court. They are chased by a robot into the depths of Homeworld, where Lars heroically sacrifices himself to destroy it. However, Steven has the same reviving ability as his mother, which brings Lars back to life. But just like the lion his mother revived, Lars also has a pink appearance. Not only that, but his hair links to the same pocket dimension which Steven uses to escape back to Earth. Meanwhile, Lars makes new friends on the homeworld and starts going on adventures with them after stealing a spaceship. Pearl finally reveals Rose's true identity, who was the Pink Diamond all along. Sapphire and Ruby, together known as Garnet, decide to marry each other, and Bismuth also makes friends with the group. Things are escalating very quickly. The wedding invites unexpected guests, the Diamonds of the Homeworld. After Lapis drops a bombshell on them, quite literally, the Yellow Diamond seeks to eradicate the entire planet, but Steven somehow manages to convince them that he is in fact the Pink Diamond, or at least what's left of her. He also convinces them to undo the gem corruption they did 4,000 years ago, and even though they abide, it's only temporary, and they need the White Diamond's power to make the permanent change. Steven is presented in White's court to put his case forth, but things escalate quickly, and he is put into a prison cell. However, Blue and Yellow ask White to consider Steven's request, and even the crystal gems show up to help him. Seeing a number of uninvited guests, White, in a fit of rage, takes over all their bodies, except for Steven's. She later separates the pink gem from his belly button, hoping her sister would return, but instead it gives birth to a glowy pink Steven. The pink Steven talks it out with the White Diamond, and then fuses back with the original Steven. White releases the gems and realizes that her sister is in fact gone. Steven and White also share a moment where Steven makes her accept her own flaws, and the group returns to Earth to undo the corruption of the gems. The movie. 2 years after making peace with the Diamonds and lifting the curse of corruption from Earth, Steven now lives his life on the beach city with his friends. He's also gotten really close to Connie in the meantime, who is headed to space camp for the remainder of the movie. Just as everything looks calm and quiet, a giant pink ship appears in the sky. Introducing Spinel. I told you she would make an epic return. Spinel, who is normally very jolly and cheerful, is out for blood, using this drill-like machine to destroy the Earth. I wonder why is that? The crystal gems try to fight her, but she uses her scythe to poof all of them. Well, except for Steven. The scythe does not work on him, so he snatches it from her and uses it to poof her as well. Sometime later, the gems regain their bodies back, but something is odd. It appears that they have reverted to their original form and have lost their memories. Spinel returns as well, and just like the rest, she has lost all her memories. Later, Steven seeks the help of Bismuth, who reveals that the scythe is a rejuvenator that was made to reset the gems. Even though the scythe has no apparent effect on Steven, it resets him as well, which means he is unable to use his powers. Steven then embarks on a mission to remind the crystal gems who they are. A funny handshake and a pop concert does it for Amethyst and Pearl, respectively. but the others were much tougher. Spinel also regains her memories and takes Steven back to Homeworld, where she shares her side of the story. Steven empathizes, and they return to Earth, and Spinel turns off the drill. However, Spinel still thinks Steven is only using her to save his planet, and will abandon her like Rose. An unfortunate incident occurs, which triggers her to turn on her drill once again. Garnet's memories return among this mess, and she helps evacuate the area, while Spinel's drill begins to tear the place down. Steven regains his powers at the most convenient time, and destroys Spinel's drill, putting an end to her madness. One thing I forgot to mention is that the Diamonds keep asking Steven to come live with them, but he keeps refusing, which causes them to arrive at Earth to live with him instead. Steven introduces them to Spinel, and they adore her as she reminds them of their sister Pink Diamond. Instead of living on Earth, they take Spinel with them back to Homeworld, and everything seems to be okay. At least for now. Steven Universe Future. Episode 1. Life on Earth is different now. The Diamonds have ended their reign of terror. The intergalactic war has ended, and everyone is safe and sound. Lars has opened up a pastry shop, Sadie is on tour, and Connie is preparing for college. The Crystal Gems have been working on a project of their own called Little Homeschool, a place where gems are welcomed and live their lives and find new purpose. Steven wants to invite everyone, but there is one gem that hasn't showed up yet, much to his dismay. He visits Jasper, who has been living as an outcast in caves, and tries to convince her to join, but they end up arguing, and a brawl breaks out. Steven turns pink during the fight and kicks her ass, which impresses even her. He apologizes and asks her to train him in fighting, but she refuses. But when he asks if he can visit her again, she tells him to do what he wants. Episode 2. Steven learns that the gems have started to fit in with the humans, and have even started doing jobs similar to those that they did back in the homeworld. In an attempt to make them go out of their comfort zone, he asks them to switch places, but let's just say things don't go very smoothly. Steven then realizes that people should be given a choice of whatever they want to do with their lives, but with his failure to understand them, he feels as if he is losing his touch. Episode 3. His worries escalate when Y6, a former resident of the human zoo, arrives on Earth and introduces them to another Rose Quartz who looks exactly like his mother. Even though they are nice guests, the Crystal Gems are weirded out because they remind them of the original Rose Quartz. With this event, Steven's stress continues to build up, and the Rose Quartz decides to go back to where they came from. Episode 4. Later, he takes on the job of healing injured gems, where he meets Pearl with a crack on her face. His healing powers have no effect on her, so alongside the regular Pearl, they go to this place called the Reef, where her crack can be fixed. However, they learn that it was caused by an emotional wound, not a physical one, prompting her to reveal that Pink lashed out at her when she was denied of having her own colony, which gave her the scar. The other Pearl speaks out in defense of Pink, which causes Steven to lose his temper and starts glowing pink again. The Reef mistakes his intentions and traps both Pearls inside a coral for rejuvenation. The Pearls settle their differences inside and fuse together, but doing so triggers a defense system that Steven turns off just barely to rescue them. Pearl's emotional scar heals, but we never get to see if her face looks the same or not. Just psychological stuff, you know. Episode 9. Sometime later, Steven learns that Lars and Sadie have broken up and urges Lars to chase after her, but Lars says he's fine with it all. During the graduation ceremony, he also learns that Sadie has parted ways with her band as well. Also, Lars is going back to space because he's done with school, and in an attempt to stop him, he starts glowing pink and subconsciously seals off all of them inside this dome, which keeps shrinking by the second. Inside, Sadie tells Steven that she and Lars tried to connect multiple times, but couldn't make things work because of different interests. Steven is stressed that his friends will move on with their lives and forget about him. But after they assure him that they will always be his friends, the dome breaks, and they are set free. Here we see Steven feeling more and more lonely wherever he goes, and things are only going to go south from here on. Episode 11. Things are changing too fast for Steven, at the point that he starts having nightmares. His nightmares even start playing on TV, so together with Peridot, he uses this opportunity to remake the reboot of their favorite TV show. However, these dreams start taking a toll on our boy Steven. but he persists as an excuse to hang out with what's left of his friend circle. Peridot sees him have a breakdown and decides to cancel their remake, claiming they don't need an excuse to hang out with each other. The two watch the old crappy remake of the show together and laugh their asses off in the end, and things look better for Steven for the time being. Episode 13. During his adventures, Steven starts feeling like he has drifted away from Connie, so he asks the only couple he knows for advice, Garnet, unfused as Sapphire and Ruby. Both advise him to propose to Connie, and can I just say that this is a horrible suggestion to give to a 16-year-old? He plans a romantic evening at the beach and goes for it. But much to his dismay, Connie says that they are too young to get married. She doesn't tell him no, she just tells him not now. On the surface, Steven looks fine, but as soon as she leaves, he turns pink and explodes. Literally explodes. Garnet arrives and comforts him, but things are going really bad for Steven. Episode 14. His room is a mess. He's fallen into depression, and any mention of Connie turns him pink and makes his limbs grow. Seeing this, Connie takes him to her mom, who is a doctor, and after some inspection, she states that Steven is going through PTSD for enduring so much at such a young age. Steven starts growing again, but luckily, his father arrives just in time, and he calms down after breaking down in front of him. Episode 15. Greg plans a road trip to make his son feel better, and they even break into Steven's grandparents' house to grab some old stuff. There, Steven learns a lot more about his father and starts to feel a little better, only to go back to square one upon learning that his father took his last name from a song. He starts glowing pink again and pulls out the steering in frustration. Luckily, no one gets harmed, but Steven does not want anything to do with his dad for now. Episode 16. The crystal gems try to console him, but his anger keeps getting worse and worse until he eventually runs into Jasper. Jasper starts training him to control his anger, and Steven even starts getting bigger and more ripped. One day during training, Steven grows so strong that he goes all out in a spar and ends up shattering Jasper. Horrified at what he has done, he returns to his house and uses the remainder of the Diamond Aura potions to revive her. After she's back, she bows to Steven's strength and calls him my diamond, something he does not want to be called. Episode 17. Unsure of what to do, he returns to Homeworld, where he first encounters a much friendlier Spinel. She takes him to both Yellow and Blue Diamond, but sadly, none of them are able to help him. Lastly, he visits White, but after an unfortunate incident, he decides to run back home. Episode 18. Back home, he pretends that everything is fine and tries to help people like he always did, only to mess up everything he touches. His friends try to reason with him until he finally gives in and calls himself a monster. Episode 19. Soon after, he turns into this giant pink monster that seeks to destroy the city, and despite everyone's best efforts, they only manage to hold him off temporarily. Since he left the homeworld so abruptly, the Diamonds come to Earth to check up on him, and much to their surprise, Steven has completely lost it. It gets so bad that even the cluster has to come out of its bubble and hold him down. All his friends mourn as they saw Steven in pain and didn't do anything, until Connie arrives and tells them to shut their air holes. She advises everyone to put his feelings above their own, like he always has. And with Garnet's wisdom, they all jump in to hold down the monster he has become, while simultaneously telling him how much he means to them. Connie gives him a kiss, and Steven returns to his human form, finally releasing all those pent-up emotions that he has held on to for so long. Episode 20. Some time has passed since the incident, and Steven has started to get better. He has also decided to leave Beach City, and wants to connect more with his human side. For that purpose, he's going on a long trip across the world all on his own. He visits the homeschool to break the news, and every one of his friends is deeply saddened to hear it. Jasper wants to come along to protect him, but let's face it, Steven doesn't need any protection. Everyone wants him to stay, but for some reason, his closest friends, Garnet Pearl and Amethyst, seem to be very okay with him leaving. He even tries to tell them that it's okay to be sad, but they simply say that it is a good thing that he is going on an adventure. He makes amends with his father, and even gives him his living room back. Even when it is time for him to leave, everyone acts all cool until Steven finally breaks the ice and asks them why aren't they sad. Turns out it was just an act to encourage him, but they couldn't hold back any longer and start sobbing. They all run in for a collective hug, and Garnet assures him that no matter where they go, they will always be together. And thus, Steven embarks on a journey to travel the world. So that will be all from us. If you enjoyed the video, then leave a like and subscribe to our channel for similar content. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.